On January 26, 2018, Dragon Ball Fighterz, also known as DBFZ, released to the world and took the FGC by storm. Thanks to developer Arc System Works' incredible visuals, the wide appeal of team-based fighting games, and the gigantic success of the Dragon Ball brand. The ever-changing metagame is one of the most interesting in fighting games history. This video is showcasing the teams, mechanics, and players that define the 3 current seasons of DBFZ. Let's begin. Season 1, of course, had a very small roster in comparison to the game's current cast. 24 characters filling the Day 1 roster, and 3 of them technically being DLC, Android 21 and the blue variants of Goku and Vegeta. As with any competitive video game, the question of who is the best is always in the conversation, and this question would be asked before the game would even release. You see, DBFZ was in a unique position, with other games releasing around that time such as Street Fighter V, Tekken 7, and Mortal Kombat 11. Legacy skill from previous titles would naturally carry over in those games. However, since Dragon Ball had no previous games to base skill on, people would debate on which type of player would ultimately become the best early on. People who played previous versus games such as Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Skullgirls, as well as people who played anime fighters developed by Arc System Works, the developers of Dragon Ball Fighterz, were strong contenders for possibly being the best. But through all this, 2 people would shine over the rest.
One thing, Goichi,
From America, Sonic Fox, a multiple world champion of NetherRealm Studios fighting games. And from Japan, Goichi, an anime fighting game legend best known for a small anime title called Melty Blood. These 2 early on would be the favorites going forward to becoming the best Dragon Ball Fighterz player in the world, and to settle this debate, the 2 would meet and hold an exhibition to determine who was the best at Final Round 2018, also known as Battle of the Gods. By this point, I would be lying if there wasn't some level of what looks strong in the game. Sonic, running Goku Black, who both was looked at as a strong support for his beam assist, and as a point due to his teleport and other offensive options. Hit was an outlier in the early meta, only utilized by Sonic, and A16, who had an incredibly strong mix-up game, while Goichi was running some very broken characters, which would be recognized in the near future, the biggest offender being SSJ Vegeta as a support. Vegeta's assist, Consecutive Energy Blast, was consecutively fucked up. DBFZ allowed you to call assist frame 1 out of block stun, and because where Vegeta appeared and for how long his assist was active, became a staple in the metagame, on top of Vegeta himself being an overall solid character. Good neutral, damage, has a DP, easy to play, everything you would want in an anchor in Dragon Ball Fighterz. Let's talk about the other characters I mentioned. First, Android 16, being in an exclusive club of characters with hard knockdown off special moves. Everyone in the game had hard knockdown off of their level 3 supers, but Android 16 had it off of his command throw. This allowing him to create mix-ups freely as long as he can end the combo off this move, which was incredibly easy to do. The other character that had hard knockdown off of a special is Adult Gohan's heavy ultimate back attack. We'll get more into Adult Gohan later. Goichi had won the exhibition and went on to win Final Round as a tournament. But another player I want to mention that put a wrench in things is Dogura's Kid Buu from Japan. This character was not the most popular right off the bat, but will become the most prevalent in the game's history. Dogura quickly caught on to Kid Buu's antics, sporting a very similar shell to Goichi, which was Cell SSJ Vegeta. Kid Buu is a very good character. Fast long-reaching normals, great ways to reset pressure, and one of the easiest mix-ups in the game thanks to his down S. Down S is a unique key blast to Kid Buu. However, the blast itself wasn't important. What mattered is it put him airborne, allowing him to keep his air actions like air dash to create very easy mix-ups. I could make a video on its own of the ways Kid Buu can mix you up in every season, but in summary, if this brat put you in block stun, you were getting hit. Dorgo would go on to beat Goichi in winners, but ultimately get third, losing to Sonic Fox and Goichi later in the tournament. Just looking at the top 8, 5 players use Anchor Vegeta, 4 using Adult Gohan, and 3 using Cell. But the fun has just begun for Season 1, as the biggest character in defining Season 1's meta dropped 10 days later as the first DLC. Bardock and Z Broly dropped on March 28th, 2018, and we're not gonna talk about Z Broly because he doesn't really matter right now. Bardock is the star of Season 1. Even someone like Maximilian, who isn't a pro player, could tell how insane Bardock was on release.
Of the two characters, Broly I was easily the most excited for, but I ended up kind of falling in love with Bardock with the few hours I had with both of these characters. And Bardock, so much stuff just seems to work.
Bardock had a lariat attack that was -1, a level 2 super which wasn't very common at the time, and one of the best auto combos in the game, and most importantly, the most hated level 3 super of all time. This level 3 super, like Android 16's special throw, gave the player a 4-way mix-up option. But why not just use Android 16? Well, Android 16 actually got his hard knockdown off special removed, and as a side note, SSJ Vegeta Assist got a change, allowing you to reflect and super dash during the block stun. So level 3s were the play to get hard knockdown mix-ups. Bardock also pioneered the tall character fuzzy setup. To summarize, in Dragon Ball Fighterz, the hurt box stays the shape whether you are standing or blocking until block stun ends, but you can choose whether to block high or low, resulting in a mix-up where you can get hit by jumping attacks for blocking low. Bardock had a very good combo option out of the fuzzy mix-up, which led to him being a prime candidate for abusing it. Bardock became a staple in so many teams Season 1, with both Cell and Vegeta still being relevant, both Goichi and Fighterz rocking a very powerful Cell, Bardock, SSJ Vegeta team that had it all and would go to get 2nd and 3rd place in EVO 2018. So after the release of Bardock, he continued to dominate the game, so let's talk about Season 2. Did you really think I wasn't going to talk about Kazunoko? Since 2008, Kazunoko has been making a name for himself in multiple fighting game franchises, with multiple top placings in biggest Street Fighter, Guilty Gear, BlazBlue, and Persona 4 arena tournaments in the world. Kazunoko has cemented himself as one of the most successful fighting game players of all time. Gotenks, Adult Gohan, Yamcha, without a doubt, is the most broken team in DBFZ history. One of the big things I haven't talked about yet from Season 1 was snapback usage. Snapback had 3 big benefits: bringing in a different character from the opponent, locking the opponent out of assist for 8 seconds, and forcing the opponent on a specific incoming timing. And did this team abuse the fuck out of it? Since assist came out 1 frame out of block stun, having the ability to lock your opponent out for 8 seconds gave you free reign on offense to not worry about any assist calls. The team itself was incredibly oppressive thanks to Gotenks starting it off. Similar to Kid Buu, Gotenks has a move that puts him in the air, allowing him to air dash after. For Gotenks, it was his auto combo. Also having access to moves with long block stun, allowing him to stall enough to regain assist, just blocking against him almost guaranteed you were going to get hit. Now we have finally circled back to Adult Gohan. Adult Gohan has an incredible pressure game, good mix-ups, very good normals, but he had a forbidden technique: invincible special move plus assist. If you're new to the game or started in playing in later seasons, back in Season 1, after you did DP, you still had access to call your assist, which brought about the bread and butter tech of doing Gohan DP and calling Yamcha assist, which was not only safe, but plus on block. Now, in terms of Yamcha, he actually wasn't that powerful on paper. His buttons are pretty bad, his damage is not very good, and he was quite reliant on meter to get any sort of damage. But what he did have was a very godlike assist, and a super fast cross-up in Wolfang Fist, which was really all you needed. You never wanted to play Yamcha, just have him for the assist and let the other two do the work. Being put in block was horrid late Season 1. You could not Sparking Blast on block, and Garcancel was not invincible until later seasons, so you just basically had to hold the mix. Piccolo was another character that abused this meta with his Hell Zone Grenade Super. Goichi and Hook Gang God, a Piccolo specialist, was very notable in this playstyle during the DBFZ World Tour and esports series hosted by Bandai Namco, specifically for Dragon Ball Fighterz. Kazunoko ultimately went on to win the World Tour Finals and many of the World Tour events along the way. His dominance closing out Season 1 truly showed the cracks in DBFZ's system, and things needed to change. Kazunoko was definitely a trendsetter in the game and will make an appearance in a later season. March 26, 2019, Season 2 starts off with huge changes. Guard Cancel gained invincible frames, you could Sparking Blast and Block Stun, assists were no longer available to be called Frame 1 out of Block Stun. The game was becoming much better on defense. The changes were well liked for the characters as well. Nerfs to Piccolo and Kazunoko's teams were very apparent. The hype for Season 2 was very strong. But DBFZ got a DLC character that no one will ever forget. GT Goku, also known as Kid Goku, was released on May 9th, 2019. And you'll have to take my word on this one. People thought GT Goku wasn't top tier at first. Due to his small size, his normals didn't have a lot of range and was lacking a traditional Ki Blast, which was looked for in a character, including a 2L that hit low to be meta. But very quickly people were catching on to how broken GT Goku was. One normal that got overlooked early was his auto combo. At first glance it looks good, but what made it insane was he moved forward so much it would beat out Reflect and catch backdashing consistently. And on the last hit it would also side swap, which was perfect for one of his level 3s, Spirit Bomb. We'll circle back to the supers in a minute. His special moves were also very obnoxious for pressure and neutral. The first one being Dragon Flash Fist, which was similar to Kid Buu and Gotenks. This left GT Goku airborne, close enough to create a high-low mix-up with the help of assists, and the heavy version had tracking, plus you couldn't challenge it since it was considered a projectile, meaning you couldn't 2H it if you reacted to it. The next one is Dragon Flurry, the noteworthy one being the heavy version, which had an insane amount of priority and high damage. Now let's talk about his supers. First, Super Kamehameha, which was a standard beam super, but would gain extra damage if you lost a character. This would come into play a lot since GT Goku was often run as an anchor character. Next are his level 3s. Yes, he had 2 of them. First, Dragon Fist Explosion, which had the same effect as his level 1, gaining extra damage and had great plus frames on hit for mix-ups. Finally, the most broken level 3 in the game ever, the legendary Spirit Bomb. GT Goku would often combo into this in 2 ways. Auto combo in the corner to bring them out of the corner, or vanish into reverse Kamehameha. The broken part is split in 2. The first is GT Goku is able to combo Spirit Bomb into his other level 3, giving him insane damage, or he can choose to do nothing after the Spirit Bomb and get hard knockdown. By this time, most level 3s were about plus 30 on hit, but GT Goku's Spirit Bomb was plus 148. The plus frames were so high, players would consistently drop the mix-up, but people learned the mix-ups and was easily the best in the game, giving him an easy 4-way plus Dragon Rush as a 5th option in the mix-up. The patch starting off Season 2 had nerfed a lot of things from characters that GT Goku received, like a move that would leave you airborne to create a high-low mix-up, or insanely high frame advantage level 3. On top of it all, he had the best assist in the game in the form of a beam that had an incredible angle. You see, DBFZ players rely on air movement in order to get around a lot of assists and special moves in general, but GT basically stopped most air movement thanks to this assist, and if he were close enough to you, even some ground movement, which is why GT Goku was played as anchor frequently. The assist was just way too good to pass off. GT Goku was one of the most dominant forces in DBFZ history, and to compare it to another game, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, in 2014, one of the best years for the game, Virgil, another insanely dominant force and anchor, was picked 10 times in the top 32 of EVO 2014, the exact amount GT Goku was picked in 2019. Bardock was also very relevant at the time, being picked 12 times at EVO 2019. The issue only grew when World Tour Finals 2020 happened on February 8th. GT Goku was played 22 times in the top 32 of the Last Chance qualifier and 5 times in the top 8. Myself included played GT to achieve a spot in the PGRZ, a world ranking of the best players between 2018 to 2020. Now sure, GT Goku was broken and a lot of discussion came up about banning him, but the worst part about Season 2 was the offhand approach Bandai Namco had on the game. Besides DLC characters and bug fixes, the game got no big updates from March 26, 2019 to February 25, 2020, and GT Goku dropping May 9th, the community was forced to handle the rat for about 292 days. A lot of competitive players were getting exhausted over GT, as the looming conclusion was you gotta play him to stay on the top. The utility he had was just way too good for the game. On top of that, snapback was still a very powerful offensive option, including newfound tech, the universal fuzzy. No longer the tall characters get fuzzied, everybody got fuzzied. And if you were playing a tall boy, you could get double fuzzied. Around June 2019, Piccolo was discovered to have the universal fuzzy that would soon translate to other characters by December 2019. The game circled back to insane offense, negating Arc System Works' attempt to reduce this offensive side of the game. Snapback was just way too strong of an option at its current state, since being locked out of a character meant you were generally locked out of guard cancel. Season 2 might not have been the most broken, but it was surely the most exhausting. The time between patches was way too long, and was even addressed as an apology by Bandai Namco. So, what did Season 3 bring? A lot. One of the biggest character balance issues in DBFZ was characters only having one assist. If a character was good but had a bad assist, they weren't meta. So, in Season 3, Bandai gave 3 assists to everyone, A, B, and C. A being the assist they already had, B being a new one based off of special moves, and C being either a beam or a tracking move that provided easy combo opportunity with the disadvantage of longer cooldown. Another new mechanic added was Limit Break, a comeback factor applied to the last remaining character of a team, giving extra damage and a free bar of meter on incoming. Since the meta had been established, using sparking for your last character wasn't good, Bandai wanted to give an extra way to come back with your final character. Offense itself was nerfed by completely removing fuzzies entirely, and made it so that if the opponent was out of block stun for a set amount of time, Z-assist could not be used again, basically removing the feeling of infinite pressure you felt in matches. Finally, changing snapback to allow the player to change the timing they would appear, either fast or slow, putting an end to the snapback metagame. There was a huge amount of character reworks, and of course, lots of GT Goku nerfs, to the point of making him quite weak as a character. However, his assists remained the same. For now, DBFZ metagame looked good thanks to the new assists. People had hope of playing the characters they really liked from Dragon Ball. But of course, in every competitive game, there will be outliers. Like I mentioned before, C assists were tracking, but had long recovery and startup. But Bardock B had the tracking of a C assist with no downsides. It was the clear best C assist in the game, even though it wasn't a C assist, eventually getting normalized, but of course a new problem would arrive in DBFZ. UI Goku was released on May 20th, 2020, and had a lot of people asking why. UI Goku had a lot of moves and things he could do off these moves which were just unnecessary, and like many top tiers, had a very good auto combo. UI Goku can just walk through projectiles, and extinguisher move, Unencumbered Mind, was also fully projectile invul. Let's talk more about this move because it was a nightmare to deal with. Having 5 enders, all different ways to deal with different defensive options, as he flips over you, having to deal with this on the fly was very scary. The biggest issue with fighting UI Goku was his defense. He had 5 different defensive options, one of them being a counter that would teleport behind you. Rising Heat, which was invincible to almost everything, also being a down-down input, so trying to beat it by switching sides wasn't a good idea. Embodied Light, an invincible move on frame 4 that gave you a full combo on hit, and he can cancel it into himself, and it can be done out of his flip move. Unrestrained Will, a reversal only done when UI Goku is knocked down by pressing light attack and medium attack, which track the opponent, and if you baited it wrong, it could whiff and you would fly off to the other side of the screen. And finally, a counter super, which of course on hit allowing him to swap out with another character, making him the most annoying character of all time on defense, while still being very good on offense. But the Ultra Instinct horror doesn't stop here. He brought along an assist that would define the metagame early Season 3. Rising Heat as a move and as an assist was also invincible with an incredible amount of hit stun, which was a clear must-have for a meta team. The game up until this point never had an invincible assist of this caliber, so players struggled to find answers. And on the horizon, the next DLC character learned this trick and made it their own. Roshi, released on September 18th, 2020, came out with his own invincible assist in the form of Roshi B. I am a little biased because I do love this assist, and even during the character showcase, Apology Man hinted at how good the assist would be invincibility wise and having high block stun.
Roshi will be like, oh, okay, he's kind of high up. All right, let me wait a bit, and then I'll punch. So it's It's
super
dead.
good. But I think the cheapest thing on top of the block stun, the speed, the range, it's about guard point at frame 15, which is crazy. It's a guard point move on top of all this. You think Bardock B is bad? You guys are not ready for this assist. Roshi B is insane.
As a character, he was strange, since in lore, Roshi cannot fly. His super dash is replaced by doing leaps on the ground and kamehamehas in the air, depending on what direction you held. Roshi was not an easy character because of this, not to say he didn't have dangerous moves, but his biggest threat came from his unusual playstyle and not understanding how he works if you're battling against him. Now of course, by this time, COVID-19 is a thing, and in terms of esports, Bandai decided to have national championships online split between regions: US East, US West, Japan, France, and Spain. In terms of character choices for the players picked to compete in this event, UI Goku of course being very popular, Z Broly, to keep it simple, had both amazing zoning and was a grappler due to his buffs over the many patches. Kid Buu, for remaining strong despite being his nerfs to his core game plan, still had good normals and strong mix-ups. GT Goku, since his assists remained the same, strong players felt it was worth using despite the nerfs to GT Goku himself. But there was one player in particular, a player I mentioned would making a return to DBFZ greatness. Kazunoko, early in Season 3, was playing Cell, Kid Buu, GT Goku, a good team, but not quite the normal level of Kazunoko cheapness. So on the release of Roshi, Kazunoko hit the lab and put together a defensive powerhouse of a team. Gotenks, UI Goku, Roshi, a team that would lead him to win the Japanese regional against Goichi, who earlier in the year won the World Tour Finals.
He wants to speak. I am the strongest man in the world!
Stop the cap.
Got away from that assist, and Goichi is forced to look at the Dragon Rush! Should be the one! El Grande Kazunoko made it work, saved 3 match points, came back from a seemingly impossible fortune to take it 5-4, your Dragon Ball Fighterz National Championship Japan champion, Kazunoko!
Unlike the other regions, Japan had a very special privilege of playing their national championship finals offline. So what exactly made this team so special? Like I mentioned earlier, Roshi and UI Goku had invincible assists, so having two on one team was a nightmare to deal with. And Kazunoko taking advantage of the new C assist, using Gotenks C, which was a beam, acting as a third defensive assist since it was full screen. Approaching Kazunoko in neutral often led to you getting hit by the assist, and since it was a C assist, giving Kazunoko easy combo conversions. The team did all usual strong components of the BFZ meta: good pressure, good mix-up opportunities, good neutral thanks to the fear of getting hit by any of these assists, strong damage since UI Goku and Roshi had level 2 supers, and of course, good characters. Roshi again acting in the Yamcha role, wanting to just win with Gotenks and UI to avoid playing Roshi since he wasn't very strong, especially alone, but we have to revisit Gotenks since unlike Season 1, Gotenks has a lot of different tools. In Season 3, they gave Gotenks moves Special Rolling Kick and Machine Gun Punch the ability to cancel into other specials, even into the same move. This reinvented his pressure and combo game, but also had a very jarring bug. If you cancelled EX Machine Gun Punch into EX Machine Gun Punch, the damage would result in death.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Even with such power, only 3 players picked Gotenks during the national championships. This bug would eventually get fixed on the release of Super Baby 2 DLC. So with all that being said, unlike Season 2, Bandai dropped a smaller but still impactful update to the game, which was labeled as Season 3.5, which is the current update we play during the making of this video. Patch 1.28, also known as Season 3.5, once again killing off Kazunoko's team by removing invincibility to both Roshi and UI assists, and giving C assists more cooldown from 11 seconds to 14. They also made big changes to the mechanics of DBFZ. Firstly, they now allow you to Z-change after special moves, which means you can bring in other characters if their assist is available to finish your combos, adding way more damage and synergy to teams. Then they also did some questionable things to the game, like adding air guard cancel, which I have yet to see anybody use on purpose, and a 2-bar guard cancel that was fast and kept the character in use on the screen instead of switching into another, and heavy special moves costing half a bar instead of 1. These changes have been well received. It feels like at this point, the majority of the cast at worst is A tier, giving more freedom to players to choose characters they really enjoy. In terms of meta characters, in Season 3.5, a favorite among the US players has been Android 21. A big part of the popularity is her level 3 was one of the very last remaining to give a 50-50 mix-up. With good damage and good neutral, she rose to the top fast in Season 3.5. However, in France, she is not popular even though she is still considered top tier by a lot of high level players. And the reason I bring up France is due to very recent events. During the COVID-19 period, the question would rise which region was the best. Japan, USA, and France being the front runners. France vs USA was up first on August 28, 2021 for the DBFZ World Championship opening event. 5 US players and 5 France players were invited in an exhibition, but it was not a very good showing for the US. And maybe this is some bias, the teams were very unfair for the US players. Picked were not very competitive at the game anymore, and France brought the absolute best since the event was hosted in Paris. This is very easy for the team to do. Part 2 of this battle is when things get interesting. December 11th, 2021, a 12v12 was hosted in France, this time with a much better US team, filled with both new blood trying to show what they are made of and veterans who still consistently play the game. The exhibition was looking to go in favor of the US. After a back and forth early on, the US gained a 4-1 lead, with the last remaining player on France being Yasha. And what Yasha did might have sealed him as a defining factor in Season 3.5 metagame.
Did you just witness Las Mezclas?
Las mezclas.
Damascus. Yasha needs one.
He can't. Okay, he can't 6M. He can't stagger. He can't do anything.
Honest.
Shoot him. He's gotta get him. Oh man, the 5Ms. Oh! The barrier sucks. Damascus.
Final game. 11-11. Let's go. No. Jake.
No.
Yasha. What do you think you are? Remember when you said I don't think Yasha can do it? This is the wanted champion we're talking about. Kaiden, he beat him. Wawa, he beat him. 7 freaking wins. 7 freaking wins in wanted in a row. He's battering Europe every single Tuesday. And today, it was just another day. Instead of Europe, he just took America. Yasha, you are insane, bro.
Stealing the show, Yasha wins it for Team France with Gogeta Blue, Android 17, and Vegito. Prophecy of this team being one of the best in Season 3.5 was finally being realized. Just looking at the character usage for the event, Vegeta with a terrifying 9 players having him on their team, Gogeta 4 filling out after with 7, France showing the world that they have the blueprint for Season 3.5. Some of the main things that make this team so strong is both Gogeta and Vegito having comedically long normals in comparison to some of the cast. The Z change has also benefited synergy, including this team giving incredible damage, and Vegito A assist being one of the best in the game currently. And that's pretty much it for now. Japan had their World Tour Championship with Android 21 and Kid Buu remaining very popular. Later this year, the true clash between Japan, US, and France, and it seems like Bandai is committed to a possible Season 4, with LabCool Android 21 being a character. The future for DBFZ and future metas is just around the corner.